It's 3 o'clock. Let's call the meeting to order. Good to see everybody. Thanks for helping us to make a quorum today. We'll talk a little bit about the need for the meeting reschedule. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't TPO staff's fault. It wasn't even really Brian's fault. We're blaming it on the federal government, whatever that's worth. So, nevertheless, happy to have everyone here today. Let's first start with the pledge of allegiance, please.
I know. I should give you warnings.
If I could choose from, I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I see new faces, I think, or newish faces. So let's, y'all don't mind, we'll go around the room and just start with introductions. Mr. Paul, first off.
Yes, sir. I'm Brian Paul with the Florida Department of Transportation. I'm based out of the Milton office, and I'm the liaison to your Okaloosa-Walton TPO.
Jim Wood, non-voting member from the Midway Bridge Authority.
Welcome back. If we'd have known, we would have made you vote.
Teresa Aver, Destin City Council.
Carolyn Ketchel, Florida County Commissioners.
Joe Block, City Crestview City Council.
Mary Beth Washtenaw, Transportation Manager, ECRC staff.
Nathan Boyles, Okaloosa County Commissioner.
City Council.
Hey, I'm Aaron Baki, Mayor Pro Tem Mariester. Anthony Valley, City of Phoenix Springs City Council.
Votes McCormick, Walton County Commissioner, District 1.
Danny Gladwell, Walton County Commissioner.
Paul Mixon, Okaloosa County Commissioner, District 1.
Tom Tolbert, non-voting member, Reagan Air Force Base.
Thank y'all very much. Let's move right on to the approval of the agenda. We have no additions needed, right, Ms. Mary Beth? All right, we have a motion.
So moved.
There we go. We got a motion and a
I'll
second.
second.
Thank you, Mayor. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, motion carries, and we'll move directly to the public forum. Do we have anybody here today from the public that would like to address the TPO? Hearing none, we'll close the public forum. We'll go straight to the most important part of the meeting, which is Mr. Falk's update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for setting the bar so high there.
Well, I don't know. We'll see.
The department's got a couple of project updates, one on a project that'll be wrapping up shortly, and two in this area that are kicking off that I think you'll find quite interesting. First one is the bridge replacement on John Sims Parkway over Tom's Bayou. This project will be wrapping up. We anticipate this being complete mid-November of this year. So you should see the final touches being made on that construction project, and it'll be opening up soon. The other two projects are a resurfacing project on State Road 85. This goes from State Road 123 up to Hospital Drive. In addition to the resurfacing, we'll also be making multiple improvements at the interchange, along with adding an additional northbound lane on 85 up to Hospital Drive, along with some access management improvements. This project has just started. It's a 650-day contract. So we'd be looking for this project to complete the first of calendar year 24. And the major project we'd like to let everybody know about is the I-10 interchange, the West Interchange. This project has been awarded. This is going to be a design build project. The anticipated contract cost for this is $73 million. And we're going to coordinate closely with the county on their improvements on PJ Adams. So hopefully we can keep these projects going simultaneously. And with that, that concludes the normal DOT update. And before we get into the CIS portion of the update, I'd like to ask if there are any questions for the department.
Do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Falk? But what about the 98 segment, the one that's going east towards the, I guess, the west end of 30A? Are they mobilizing on that 6-laning already? I saw some, what looked to be like some construction equipment being brought in.
Yes, sir. Let me check that during the meeting, and I'll get you some more definitive
Okay,
information.
just curious. It looked like they were
Yes,
just
sir.
cruising right along with keeping that thing moving.
Mhm.
And I'm in these gentlemen's backyard, but I travel that corridor pretty regular, and I've noticed that the traffic volume, one, it continues to grow. I'm sure y'all know that real well, but already I've noticed that segment to 331, no, 393, the segment from, I guess, the west end of 30A to 393 seems to be backing up already. I'm sure you guys are getting on top of DOT, but you guys are probably trying to keep that project right on
Yes,
the
sir.
going.
Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
while we're talking about 98, let me just ask about the other end. Mary Esther, has there been any decisions made or any more discussion on whether that's going to be 6-laned or whether there's going to be a bypass on Hollywood Boulevard, or is that still just in discussion?
From the department's perspective, we did adjust our project limits to basically encompass the entire area to the west up till the Herbert entrance. So that small portion between Herbert and the Mary Esther area is still on hold. That can't be a eternity being on hold, but the department would like to move forward on that eventually. Now, whether it turns into a alternative route to relieve the US 98 congestion, that this body itself will be providing that guidance. I do know the city of Mary Esther had made a couple of attempts to look at some alternative routes. I'm not sure how successful that's been, but given our constant need for transportation revenue, it's not like we're sitting here with bags of money ready to go with that project, unfortunately. So we do have some time, but I think that's something this TPO is going to have to address sooner rather than later.
Well, I'll just say that, and I'm not speaking for Fort Walton or Mary Esther, but I do know that there is a hope out there by many of the residents that you consider Hollywood as an opposite direction to 98, so that it would not widen because those who live along that corridor are concerned about losing that.
We obviously have issues with the Hollywood Boulevard, as far
I'm
as its
sure.
relation with Herbert. And, if you move that potential realignment further to the east to remove Herbert from the equation, you start going through neighborhoods there also. So, it's not a simple solution, and we admit that, but it's one that we're going to have to come to a consensus on very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strong. Any further? Yes, sir.
So I know that in our last meeting, right, we have evaluations of alternative routes and such for that Hollywood Boulevard area on the top 10 list for the prioritization. So that's something I'm keeping a keen eye on as well.
Thanks, sir. All right.
Okay, with that, I'll introduce Mr. Starsky-Harrell out of our district planning office. He's going to talk about the CIS plant update. This plant basically has 3 major components. The portion Starsky will be discussing today is the policy plan. This is the very initial kickoff of the plan. It sets the framework on how the department's going to, 1, identify CIS facilities, and 2, prioritize how we fund those needed improvements along the corridor. Subsequent to this, you'll have basically the first 5 years of the CIS plan where we're talking about actual individual projects. The third component is more the long range aspect of it. It's basically the final 15-year look. We have a 5-year look and then 15 more years, very similar to the TPO's long range plan. So today, we're just basically talking about, what factors are important in this area as far as determining how we need to improve these strategic corridors, and then what components do we need to look at beyond the existing facilities. So with that, I'll turn it over to Starsky for the presentation.
So good afternoon. Like you said, I'm Starsky-Harrell. I'm at the planning office out of Chipley for the Department of Transportation. Here today just to give you some information on the Strategic Intermodal System, CIS as we call it, the policy plan update. This is something that's done every 5 years. And I'm sure most of y'all may remember that it's kind of the similar process to the Florida Transportation Plan that we just updated in the last 2 years. As you recall, the Florida Transportation Plan is the single overarching plan guiding Florida's transportation future. And then the CIS policy plan comes in as part of that guides the policy framework concerning planning and investment decisions for the CIS facilities over the next 5 years. And we did have this video we were going to show, and it was going to give you the highlights of what the CIS was and everything else, but we don't think it will play, and the sound will come through for here and the go-to meeting. So I'm briefly going to just talk through it, and then we'll move on to the rest. Well, I did hear a little bit of sound then. But the strategic intermodal system is that y'all all know that it's the state's network of high priority transportation facilities. And it's the largest and most significant transportation facilities for our regions. And the primary means for this is moving people and freight. It was created in 2003. It was meant to help move meet the growing demands for moving people and freight, and it was to link Florida's economic regions, enhance Florida's competitiveness as global hubs for trade, and to make strategic choices for transportation investments within financial constraints. On the screen here, you see the systems map. And for the state, and I just want to focus on Okaloosa-Walton County. For your areas, you have the corridors, which is I-10, US 331, and US 98. And then you have the strategic growth facilities and the military access facilities, which is State Road 85 and State Road 123 into Eglin. And then, of course, the hub with the Destin Fort Walton Beach Airport, as well as you have the Intercoastal Waterway and then the rail line that runs along just around Highway 90. So that's the facilities within Okaloosa-Walton County.
And we had to fight to get 98 put on that list, which is somewhat ironic. We didn't the rest of the state.
Yes, it was just added in the last 3 to 4 years, I believe. So even though the name has changed for this policy over the years, the policy generally addresses and includes the following topics. It talks about the objectives of how we plan and manage the SIS and how that fits into the broader goals of the Florida Transportation Plan. It outlines the focus areas for the SIS that are to be addressed over the next 5 years as part of this plan. And then it sets forth policy and or strategies directed towards the objectives and focus area. The last thing is it provides the implementation guidance of how to carry this plan forward. Next slide. So here are the current 2016 policy plan. Here are the objectives. These objectives are not changed. They still fit within the Florida Transportation Plan's overarching goals, and we keep these things the same for the interregional connectivity, the intermodal connectivity, and economic development. So moving into the focus areas for the 2022 plan that's in the development, they have these 5 areas: safety, resilience, technology and innovation, urban mobility and connectivity, and then newer into the plan for this year is the rural mobility and connectivity focus area. So these are the 5 focus things that this plan will develop on. So basically, we're here just to tell you that all of this has been in the update. We're right now in the outreach and then in the draft of the plan. By the end of the year, there will be a draft policy that comes out that y'all will be able to make comments on and to provide input. And then maybe if the plan goes, they'll have it adopted first part of next year. Next slide. So this page shows you the link that would have been the video that we would have shown you. So you will provide this to TPO staff where they can send this out to y'all so y'all can be able to go get to this information. Click on the video, watch the video, and it gives you the history of SIS and why it's important. And then be able to give the input of the focus areas and then provide your comments. Main thing we wanted to be here today was to make sure that y'all are all very aware that the strategic intermodal system is very important to the district and the state, and that we really would like for y'all to go in and to visit this site that we'll provide to y'all to send out and provide comments. As part of a parting message, we always try to do something towards safety and everything with DOT, but we encourage everyone to do their part with the department's Vision Zero initiative and to support the goal of a fatality-free transportation system. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Brian or answer any questions you may have at this point.
I've got one question. I understand the intercoastal waterway is part of the SIS. Is the East Pass part of that, or is that separate?
I would tell you it's separate, but I would have to look up to see, but I think it is separate.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Is that all you have for us today, Mr. Falk?
Yes, sir. That concludes the department's update.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move right along to consent agenda consisting of the June 2021 meeting minutes. Do we have action? Thank you, Commissioner Ketchel, with the motion to
Move approval.
Of a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Come on, y'all. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed? Carries unanimously. What was that?
It was over the speaker on
Was
the
that,
side
was
of the
that
room.
Mayor Whitten?
It was.
Sounded like the mayor. Mayor, you're creeping us out, coming from the sky. How are you
I
today?
know it. I'm freaking myself out. I'm not feeling very well today.
Oh, gosh, sorry to hear it. Hope you feel better.
I'm remoting
All
in
right.
just so I can observe what's going on.
Yes, sir. Moving on, action items, enclosure A. Ms. Mary Beth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first action item is enclosure A, consideration of resolution Okaloosa-Walton 2116, adopting targets for transit safety performance measures. Mr. Howard Vanzelo will present.
Good afternoon. As Mary Beth mentioned, this is consideration of resolution OW 2116. The moving ahead for progress in the 21st Century Act, MAP 21, requires state, DOT, and TPOs to establish performance targets that address the performance measures or standards established. These measures are to be used in tracking progress towards attainment of critical outcome for the region of the TPO. Okaloosa County EC Rider Fixed Route and Demand Response Paratransit Operation set safety targets for fatalities, injuries, and events of their transit agencies that were approved July 20th, 2021 by the Okaloosa Board of County Commissioners. These targets are shown in your enclosure. The resolution is requesting the TPO adoption of the following transit safety targets for fixed route and demand response: 0 fatalities, 0 injuries, 0 safety events, and an annual revenue miles of 977,021. I know that 0 seems like an unattainable number, but in the transit world, it really is not that unattainable. In 2019, there was 1 injury, 1 safety event. That was the last reported data. In other counties for the demand response, they have gone years with 0 incidents. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions, comments that you may have.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Mayor Whitten. Yes, sir. You've got the floor, Mayor.
Actually, I can support this one for the transit. You know, I'm opposed to what we did on the highways, but I believe this is realistic for transit. So I can actually support this one 0s.
Thank you, Mayor. I
All right.
appreciate that. Any further questions or comments? Do we have action? Mayor Whitten, I'll take that as a motion to approve. Sir?
Yes.
Further discussion? Thank you, sir. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. And that's why we were here today, y'all. Thanks. Moving on, enclosure B.
Enclosure B was for the TPO and CAC only. Consideration of Citizens Advisory Committee application from Ms. Wenjuka Jackson. And the CAC did recommend approval of her application and recommended the TPO approve and have her added to the CAC committee.
This was coming out of the city of Crestview. We have action.
If I can comment, Mr. Chair, obviously an individual that I screened and submitted, so she has my full support.
Thank you. A motion by Mayor Whitten.
I'll
That's right.
second. She has an impressive resume. I'll second.
Got a second by Commissioner Ketchel. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries unanimously. Moving on to presentations.
Your presentations today consist of an update from Ms. Jill Nobles, who is the project manager for the Okaloosa-Walton Long Range Transportation Plan. And Jill should be on the line.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mary Beth. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, TPO members. As y'all know, we are updating the TPO's 2045 Long Range Transportation Plan. If you can go to the next slide, please. We started this process over a year ago. The importance of the long-range transportation plan as it pertains to the TPO planning process is that the long-range transportation plan, or LRTP, is only updated every 5 years. It can be amended at any time, but it goes through a major update only once every 5 years. And part of that update includes 2 lists of projects, the needs plan and the cost feasible plan. The needs plan consists of all the projects that are needed to make a fully operational and efficient transportation network. And the cost feasible plan is a much shorter list of the projects that we can foreseeably afford through the year 2045. And every year, we ask the TPO to rank the projects that are in the cost feasible portion of the LRTP. And those priorities are sent to FDOT, who then looks at all the state and federal funding and funds those projects. So that's why it's really important to get involved into the LRTP process. Now go ahead. We started this overall process of updating it a little over a year ago. You can go to the next slide. We looked at the existing conditions and the demographics of the TPO area. We got our steering committee together, which is made up of TCC members as well as CAC members, and develop goals and objectives for what we'd like the TPO network to be in a more of a qualitative sense. And then we developed evaluation criteria to give it a little more of a qualitative aspect to rank those projects. We looked at the financial resources, all the potential revenues coming in. And then for the congestion management process plan update, we looked at how the roadway networks are operating and how we can operate them more efficiently and effectively with what we have. And that's not just automobiles, but it's also the pedestrian and bicycle networks as well as transit infrastructure. And so we are currently in the draft needs plan and cost feasible plan portion of the plan, actually developing the list of projects, working with the steering committee members. If you want to go to the next slide, please. We've been working with the steering committee to develop this list of projects. We're working with, as well as some of y'all individually. If you do want to, make sure that a project is on the list, please feel free to reach out to me or your staff to make sure we got the projects needed. Next slide, please. We're currently in a virtual open house, that's what we're calling it, a 2-week period where we are asking the public to go online. They can sign up for email updates. We're asking them right now to take a survey on the needs plan and give us input. We've already gotten a lot of feedback already. Go to the next slide. It's a little screenshot of the survey and where they can find the information. Everything can be found at ecrc.org/OW2045LRTP, or you can reach out to me and I'll make sure that you find the right information. Next slide. Moving forward over the next few months as we wrap the 2045 LRTP update up, this month we had a steering committee meeting earlier this month where we're finalizing the needs plan list. And behind the scenes, us and HDR, our consultant, are drafting those purpose and needs statements for each project for the needs plan report. Moving into next month, we have a steering committee meeting next week. We're going to start really diving into the cost feasible plan portion of the plan. We're developing 3 different scenarios, and then we're going to get the steering committee to kind of pick the best of each scenario and bring back to y'all a what we're going to call a hybrid scenario for the final cost feasible plan. Since that TPO meeting in October is going to be virtual, we will not have any action items, so we're going to just present them as information items and give y'all a better look at what's in the plan. In November, we'll have another steering committee meeting to finalize the cost feasible plan and present it to the public, do a workshop, do another outreach period. And finally, in December, at your December meeting, we will ask for adoption of both the needs plan and cost feasible plan. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me, but that's all I have for you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could ask Jill a question, please.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah, Jill, you know my favorite project. Where are we on that? What list are we on? I had to keep track of that.
It is on the needs plan. Like I said, we'll have to see where it shakes out in the cost feasible plan scenarios, but it is the crabapple alignment, right?
Right.
Of Antioch Road?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
It's been on the needs plan forever. That's why I'm trying to get it moved.
Yes, sir. We will track it as it whenever it hits the cost feasible plan, and I'll let you know if it's on a scenario, which one, and how to, make sure we stay on top of that.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Jill, the mayor may want to participate in the October 5th meeting as well, correct?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah.
At least virtually.
All right, that sounds great.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
can I ask Ms. Nobles a question?
Absolutely.
I don't know if you're aware or not, but we have passed our mobility plan in Walton County, which includes the Funiac, Paxton, and we're hoping to have Freeport soon. And our understanding was we would get to present that plan to the TPO for consideration on the October 21st meeting. Do they need to present that at the October 5th steering committee meeting instead?
We are aware that the Walton County adopted their long range plan or mobility plan. It was my understanding, and maybe you can help, that they would present it at the October meeting. I'm not sure. Are you asking the TPO to take action on it?
Well, we want to make sure that our projects are considered, especially our top priority projects, which would be there's no need to get into that now, but we want to make sure those are considered.
Yes, sir. If I'll just say that our draft needs plan, we've been keeping up with Walton County, and we're making sure that we're really glad that y'all made action before we ask for final adoption in December. So we'll be sure to include the projects that would need to go through the TPO process for state and federal funding, that they are included in our LRTP.
Yes, ma'am. Come to the microphone over here for me. And while you're coming up, and what I would say, Commissioner, is certainly I haven't seen it yet. I'd like to see your mobility study. It's something I'm interested in seeing if we need to be incorporating that in Okaloosa County as well. And so I would certainly make sure your staff circulates it to folks who can be available during that steering committee discussion. And then, obviously we'll be having an opportunity to take their proposals, recommendations, and then make adjustments as needed here at this table before we finalize that thing. So I'll certainly be eager to have your product as a part of that.
Michelle, can you make sure they get a copy?
Yes, absolutely. And I think the question from my perspective was, if we're adopting the cost, I think I heard you say the cost feasible and the needs plan in December on the same day. How will there be time, I guess, for us to work with you all to make sure that the board's top priorities are at least in the running for the cost feasible consideration, and how will that be sort of vetted by this group if it's all happening at one meeting and we're kind of late to the party?
and I'll certainly let staff answer this. What I'll say from having seen the process in the past is, there have been projects that have come forward, that were on needs that did not make it to cost feasible at the initial draft level that have been elevated to cost feasible with the understanding then there's something on cost feasible that's been having to be pushed back down.
Right.
Obviously, cost feasible meaning there's enough money to pay for them. And so,
Okay.
but I don't think that is out of the realm of reason to expect that if there are key projects that for whatever reason didn't make it in the initial staffing process, to be elevated by this body to say, no, we really think this is a priority and needs to be included. And then as long as we've got, I guess, those dollar values, that may be where you need to be working with staff to make sure that we've got order of magnitude dollar values on any projects that y'all have that aren't even apparent on needs yet, so that we can know if there's going to be a reshuffling, what that fiscal impact is. So what's got to come off. Am I misrepresenting any of that, Austin or Brian?
No, you're accurate on that. That's, if I may, Mr. Chairman, we received word that Walton County has adopted that mobility plan. We certainly applaud the effort of the county. That's a lot of work and time that it took to put that together. We have received the list of projects, and what staff is planning on doing is coming through that list, working with the county. We're going to have a meeting with the county ourselves, DOT, to kind of come through it, see what's on there, see what's already on our list, what might be already captured, what needs to be captured, kind of work through the process and do a little behind the scenes work on where things need to go. And we hope to capture all of those projects that we need to capture and can capture, and at least put them in the needs plan, and then let those projects work their way through the criteria for the cost feasible plan, and then bring it back to this board in December for your all's, just what you're talking about, placing things where they need to be, making sure everything's accurate. So the county, you will have an opportunity in December to voice your opinions and thoughts as where those projects fall in that needs and cost feasible plan. Now, this is aside from the priority ranking session too. Priorities will start spring sometime of next year, but we need to capture them in the needs plan and the cost feasible. So yeah, we plan on doing that. We're gonna take care of you guys.
Thank you.
Before you step down, do we need to have our staff prepare some preliminary cost figures on some of these projects, or?
The projects are costed because we did it as part of a fee effort originally. So, I mean, we do have some cost estimate that the consultant that worked on our mobility plan prepared. You don't know how accurate, but.
Normally, if there's any overlap in projects, the TPO will already have cost estimates for those. Any projects that are fairly new to the process, we utilize some pretty high-level planning estimates, so it should not be a problem to sync up the cost and get them back in the area of what we normally use for the long-range plan.
And send what we have.
Before she steps away, she didn't introduce herself, but this is Kristen Shell, who is our Deputy Planning Director and has done all the work on this mobility plan, and we appreciate her efforts. Lord knows they spent about 3 years trying to make everyone happy, which is
well, if you figured that out, then I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. And if that ends up being a staff level discussion where there's not a sunshine issue, I'd certainly be happy to tag along and kind of get that preview as y'all are working through that with Walton County staff to help be able to make sure that gets where it needs to be come December. Keep me in the loop. Okay. Y'all forgive me. I think I got off track as where we were here at the moment. There we go. Information items. Thank you.
All right. So your information items consist of the meeting minutes, the actions report. That's what action you took at the last meeting. A couple of letters to our consultants, a couple of letters to Senator Rubio and Senator Scott from Austin, TIP amendment request, and the schedule. And then our next meeting, as we've talked about, is Thursday, October the 21st. It's our regular meeting day. For you, it's at 3 o'clock, and it will be completely virtual. Now, Mary Jo, our public information manager is going to get up and talk about a few things, but I'm going to tee her up on one of them. Because one of them I've had a lot of experience with, and I want to call somebody out that was part of the very beginning of this. It's our transportation symposium, and Councilman Martin asked me when he came in the door, what is this about this November 4th and 5th symposium? He didn't know what it was about. I said, you gotta go. You gotta go. If you're not interested in the subject matter, you will meet people that will really make a difference in your learning process of transportation planning. So I really, really encourage all of you to go. You've got a better deal this year than anybody's ever had. The room nights are $100. I think your registration is $100 for board members. So, and it's in your backyard. It's in the middle of Okaloosa-Walton County. So there's no reason for you guys not to participate, not to support. I mean, he's not going to be there, so you don't have to worry about that.
What is the time? That's what I was wondering. What is the time on the 4th and the 5th? Are they all day?
I'm going to let Mary Jo take it from here because she's the one that's handling the details. But this, I'm just going to say it one more time. But here's who I want to call out on this. If it wasn't for Jim Wood back in the day when he was the chairman of this organization, we wouldn't have this. He was part of it. So, all right, Mary Jo.
Mr. Chairman, TPO Board. So we are, as Mary Beth has stated, we're very excited about this symposium this year. I think with COVID, we've put it off, and now finally we've got it secured in a safe environment that we feel like will be a safe experience and a great experience for everyone who attends. That is, again, happening on Thursday, November 4th and Friday, November 5th. As far as the time goes, I believe the agenda starts at 8 a.m. in the morning and runs on the first day to approximately 5 p.m. with the dinner reception cruise immediately following that on the Solaris dinner cruise out of Harbor Walk Village.
It's a boat cruise.
I mean, actually not Harbor Walk, Baytown Yacht Club. Yes, it's a boat.
Boat cruise.
A ship.
It's not a yacht.
They might call it a ship.
The Solaris.
The
It's the biggest
Solaris.
boat in Walton County. That counts.
So this, the event's theme this year is big data, and the lineup of special guests and speakers and panelists will present a look into the future of transportation from ATMS, ITS to smart regions, complete streets, crash data to bike ped trails, and much more. So very interesting topics with a lot of experts talking about those topics. Again, as Mary Beth said, the event will be held at the Hilton Sandestin. I believe the rooms are over discounted more than 60%. They're $96 a night, and their off-season rates, I think, are close to $300 a night. So every room has a beach view. And again, the dinner reception will be on the Solaris. That is included with your registration fee. You should have received an email with all of the links and the information about that, but there's also a flyer in your info packets today that kind of looks like this. It has the web links for the registration. And as TPO board members, if you use, when registering, if you use the discount code boards with an S, then that reduces your registration fee 60% from $250 down to $100. So it's a really great deal.
Mary Jo, is there a reception Wednesday night, the day before it actually kicks off?
That is in discussion. We haven't solidified that, but I believe that we did say we were going to have kind of a meet and greet, day, night prior to the symposium. Just something from like maybe 6 to 7:30 was going to be a meet and greet there at the hotel. So I think we'll send an email out with that, or it will be on the agenda that will be posted hopefully in the next day or two onto the website with the full agenda and the times of everything. I did want to say, I just found out today because there were some questions about, just because it is such a nice beachfront hotel, and people were wanting to come in a day early or stay through the weekend, a little staycation, if you may. And they did push our room block from November 2nd through the weekend. So if people are interested in just staying for a little family time or personal time, then we encourage you to do that. Let's see. The second item, the last item that I wanted to talk about was Mobility Week. And the FDOT Central Office recently sent out to all District 3 elected officials and TPO members a letter from Secretary Tebow on the statewide Mobility Week, and that's taking place October 29th through November 5th. And in Secretary Tebow's letter, he comments that the success of this Mobility Week initiative relies heavily on community partners like you. And it's important that our community partners embrace the idea of collaboratively promoting safe and sustainable transportation choices. So there is a small flyer. I think you might need a magnifying glass to read it. My apologies. But this does have all the information about Mobility Week on it. There is what we call the Love to Ride Challenge. So if anybody likes to ride, has a bike, if your family likes to ride bikes, you can register online. You can register individually, or you can register with a group. So if you happen to have employees or a staff and you want to encourage them to sign up, they can actually bike a certain amount of miles to win prizes and things like that. So it's a very flexible, easy way to participate in Mobility Week if you want to do it at least in that way. The major information about local and statewide events is on the website mobilityweekfl.com. So if anybody has any questions about Mobility Week for District 3 activities, you can reach out to Jason Arnold. He's one of our ECRC staff members, and he is the Ride On Commuter Services Coordinator. And his email is jason.arnold@ecrc.org. That's all I have. Is there any questions?
Okay, questions? Yes, sir. Is there one keynote speaker this year, or is it a series of?
There are, so it is a little bit of a different setup this year, but I think everybody will like it. It's we have different panels that will be speaking, and then we also have keynote speakers. So there is a couple of different ones, but you won't be moving from room to room. Everybody will be in one large room, and everybody will be able to partake of the information at the same time. So that's how the setup goes.
So, thank you. Any other questions? All right, what's next? That's all you got? Okay. Let's see. So yeah, and just to clarify, the October 21st meeting is all virtual. There'll be no action taken. Obviously we can't in a virtual meeting. But that was the originally scheduled date. That meeting had to be pulled forward to today's date. So the items that remain for the 21st are important, but they're not items that will require option. And to clarify, will Walton County have an opportunity during that meeting to be able to give everybody participating an overview of their mobility study?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm actually talking to Jill right now. I think our plan, the best approach on this is to add it to the steering committee meeting on October 5th, because a couple different reasons. One, that meeting is open to CAC, TCC, and board members all to attend. So we would invite all of Walton County elected officials, all of TPO board members, whoever would like to attend, as well as those committee members, to hear the Walton County Mobility Plan. It gives us time with those committee members who have been engaged and focused on the LRTP's update since the beginning to ask questions, to kind of iron out some of these things. And it is a virtual element, which we feel, and hopefully on October 1st, we'll test it out again. We feel the virtual element is good for presentations because it's sitting in front of your computer screen and you can see the projects. We can go through our interactive map and pull these things up. Obviously, we're not necessarily saying, virtual is the way to go, but at least for informational presentations, it seems to be a little bit better. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. But anyways, October 5th, it looks like we're going to add Walton County Mobility Plan to that steering committee agenda and bring it back.
Y'all good with that? Can y'all, obviously they gotta have their, okay.
Yeah, we definitely would want to have some follow-up conversation with the full board for those board members not attending on the 5th to talk about those projects as well. Okay. Is that okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, does anybody else have anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn today? All right, look at that, Jim, we did it in less than an hour. We're adjourned.